Have you ever seen a photo so powerful it changed the course of a war? Today, we're diving into Clint Eastwood's 2006 masterpiece, Flags of Our Fathers, a film that explores the story behind one of the most iconic images of the 20th century, the flag raising on Iwo Jima. But this isn't just a war movie. It's a profound look at heroism, memory, and the often uncomfortable truth that lies behind the legends we create. The film opens with a brutal, visceral depiction of the Battle of Iwo Jima in February 1945. This wasn't a glorious conquest. It was a hellish meat grinder. The Japanese had turned the volcanic island into a fortress of underground tunnels and hidden bunkers. American Marines were thrown into a storm of steel, fighting for every inch of black sand. The casualties were staggering. The movie doesn't shy away from the chaos, the fear, and the sheer randomness of who lived and who died. It's here we meet our central characters, Navy Corpsman John Doc Bradley, the quiet and reserved Rene Gagnon, and Ira Hayes, a Pima Native American Marine struggling with his own demons. Amidst this carnage, a moment of seeming triumph occurs. After days of savage fighting, a group of Marines raises an American flag atop Mount Suribachi, the island's highest point. The moment is captured by photographer Joe Rosenthal, and his image instantly becomes a symbol of hope and victory for a war-weary America. It's a picture of strength, unity, and indomitable spirit. But here's the twist. The famous photo IS&T of the first flag raising. A smaller flag was raised earlier, but a military official wanted a larger, more visible one as a souvenir. The second flag raising, the one captured in the famous photograph, was almost an afterthought. The 6 men in that photo, Harlan Block, Franklin Sousley, Michael Strank, Rene Gagnon, Ira Hayes, and Doc Bradley weren't posing for history. They were just soldiers doing a job. Tragically, Block, Sousley, and Strank would be killed in action just days later. The surviving 3, Gagnon, Hayes, and Bradley, are pulled from the front lines and sent back to the United States. Why? Because the government is nearly bankrupt. The war is costing a fortune, and they need to sell war bonds to fund the final push. And what better way to sell bonds than to parade the heroes from that iconic photograph? The 3 men are thrust into the spotlight, hailed as national heroes, and sent on a whirlwind tour across the country. This is where the heart of the film truly beats. It masterfully cuts between the grim reality of the battle on Iwo Jima and the surreal spectacle of the bond tour back home. While they are being cheered by massive crowds, treated to fancy dinners, and praised by politicians, their minds are still on the black sands of Iwo Jima. They are haunted by the friends they lost, the horrors they witnessed. The bond tour becomes a stage play where they are forced to act the part of heroes. They reenact the flag raising on a giant paper match mountain in a sold-out stadium. The crowd roars, but for the men, it's a hollow, almost painful experience. They know the real heroes are the ones who never left the island, buried beneath the volcanic ash. Each of the 3 men handles this disconnect differently. Rene Gagnon, perhaps naively, embraces the fame. He sees it as an opportunity, a way to build a better life for himself and his fiancée. He's not a bad person, just someone trying to make sense of an extraordinary situation and capitalize on his good fortune. Doc Bradley is the quiet one. He's withdrawn, stoic, and deeply private. He goes through the motions of the tour, but his mind is elsewhere. He carries the weight of the men he couldn't save as a corpsman. For the rest of his life, he rarely speaks of the war or the photograph, telling his family that the real heroes were the ones who didn't come back. He tries to retreat into the quiet life of a funeral director, a profession where he can offer comfort to the grieving, something he couldn't always do on the battlefield. And then there's Ira Hayes. His story is the most tragic. As a Native American, he faces racism and condescension even as he's being celebrated. He feels immense guilt, believing he doesn't deserve the title of hero. He knows his friend, Harlan Block, was in the photo, but the government misidentified the man as another soldier. Ira tries to set the record straight, but he's told to keep quiet for the sake of morale and the bond drive. The hypocrisy and the trauma eat away at him. He turns to alcohol to numb the pain, his public appearances becoming increasingly erratic. He is a man broken by the very thing that made him famous. The government that used him as a symbol ultimately discards him when he becomes an inconvenience. His post-war life is a painful spiral, a testament to how we often build up our heroes only to abandon them when their reality becomes too complicated. Flags of Our Fathers forces us to ask difficult questions. What is a hero? Is it the person in the photograph or the thousands who fought and died in anonymity? The film suggests that the men in the photo were heroic not because they raised a flag, but because they endured the unimaginable horrors of combat alongside their brothers. The flag raising was just one moment among millions of moments of bravery, sacrifice, and terror. The government, in its desperation to fund the war, manufactured a narrative. They turned a random moment into a powerful symbol and turned ordinary men into legends. But they never stopped to consider the cost to the men themselves. The film is a powerful critique of propaganda and the way history is often simplified and sanitized for public consumption. The truth is always messier, more painful and more human than the myths we create. In the end, the film isn't about deflating the heroism of the soldiers. It's about redefining it. It's a tribute to the entire generation that fought in World War II. It honors the men who raised the flag, the men who fought beside them, and the men who never came home. It reminds us that behind every iconic image, there are real people with complex stories, carrying burdens we can only begin to imagine. It is a story about the difference between the war we see in pictures and the war that soldiers carry inside them for the rest of their lives. So Flags of Our Fathers is more than just a war movie. It's a haunting and deeply moving examination of memory, myth, and the heavy price of being called a hero. It challenges us to look beyond the symbols and remember the human beings who lived and died for them. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this summary interesting, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more deep dives into cinematic history. See you next time.